Hello, welcome. I'm Rene Valentina, and this is Musing Interruptus. Listen to Musing Interruptus if you like stories and learning idiomatic phrases in different contexts. You can read along. Just click on Continue Reading in the description to open a Google Doc with the transcription of this episode. The idiomatic expressions are in italics. Try to get the meaning from the context and then look them up to see if you were right. If you like it, subscribe, follow, and share, but more importantly, continue the conversation. Drop a comment with your answers to today's questions. I love hearing from you. The background music is by Blue Dot. The mix and master were done by Jesus Ledio, my sound partner. I loved watching TV when I was a kid, almost as much as I loved diving into my fantasy world. Sometimes I couldn't wait to get my hands on my dolls for their next dialogues and adventures. Whenever I write, I visit the same place. Whenever I'm invited to play, even if it's just for a moment, I get transported there. That was the magic of teaching children for me. We played, and I had to oscillate between keeping the peace and being the guardian of the rules, and playing. And it's not as difficult as you might think. When I was in the classroom, my height helped. However, when I became a high school teacher, I went back to being very short. It's all relative, you know? Teaching is a very safe place for me. I need it as much as my students need it, and I love that. Teaching is a love language and a huge responsibility. Sometimes we have the opportunity to make up for other teachers' shortcomings, and I pray that other teachers are able to do the same for mine. We have to face hurdles sometimes. Hurdles like explaining that water, although considered tasteless and odorless, is not all the same. But wait, isn't it just 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen? I mean, chemically speaking, yes. But there's more truth than meets the eye. So, I'll tell you a story. There once was a man from Nantucket who had a big bucket and wasn't afraid to dunk it. So off he went to inspect the wells in the surrounding towns. What, did you think I was going to old school it? Not today. He would never regret the time spent perusing, sniffing, and lapping up water. For he did suspect a lingering taste, something different. He needed to get to the bottom of it. Over the hills and into the surrounding forests, dunk, 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 he hauled the buckets of water back home. He had small samples from each well he encountered on his travels, and meticulously kept track of the site of each dunking, and poured the samples in the jars he repurposed as drinking glasses. Mind you, he is exceedingly aware of the importance of minimizing his carbon footprint, and ever since he was a child, he adored whatever was labeled vintage and envisioned his adult life much like what he had seen on black and white TV shows like Lassie and Mr. Ed. He especially looked forward to having an ice box, in part because he liked the idea of having delivery people bringing blocks of ice and bottles of water to his door. I think what he really wanted was the simplicity of life that those shows offered. Problems were solved and pain was never really written into the storyline. He visited thrift stores, yard sales, and estate sales. Each purchase reinforced the idea that he was closer to the life he imagined for himself. In the kitchen, the jars from preserves, pickles, sauces, and even baby food were used for drinking and sometimes storage. For instance, the water he was collecting from the different wells. He labeled each jar with the specifics of the well's location. He cross-referenced the information with the description he made in his observational journal. Were there trees? What was the state of the well, surrounding vegetation? He even checked the weather conditions of the previous month, making note of rain or drought. Gosh, wouldn't you know it, he even looked into nearby grazing areas. His logic dictated that that must also influence the taste of water. Labeled, cross-referenced, and ordered side by side, he couldn't help feeling like a scientist in his laboratory, on the verge of making a breakthrough. He proceeded to pick up each jar of water, sniff, swirl, sniff, and taste. He pursed his lips. This tastes like pickle juice. Perhaps he hadn't considered pickle juice spillage as he gathered information. He set that jar down, took notes, and to cleanse his palate, he licked a rock. To him, it made all the sense in the world. He picked up the next one. Sniff, swirl, sniff, and sip. Mayonnaise! Ugh! This water must come from a well that is close to a sandwich factory. They must have dumped the spoiled mayonnaise behind the factory, and it seeped into the subterranean water. He made note of this as he nodded his head disapprovingly. How terrible to have such irresponsible factories. The poor people of that town have to drink water that tastes like mayonnaise. What a terrible thing. After a good lick to the rock, he was ready to sample the next jar of water. Sniff, swirl, sniff, and taste. Oh, he thought to himself, This is sweet. He sampled the water again, not believing how yummy this jar of water was. I might not pair it with a steak, but I wouldn't mind some ice cream or perhaps a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. There must be a strawberry ice cream farm nearby. He couldn't imagine they were careless with their production, so he chalked it up to a broken pipe that had gone unnoticed. He wondered if he should say anything or simply enjoy the strawberry-flavored water he had discovered. He jotted down his notes and proceeded to mark his map. He had a color-coded system of flags. All in all, he felt very good about his investigation into water smells, wells, and the effects of their surroundings on taste. Today, he was satisfied with his understanding of the world. Thank you for listening. Would you hire our nascent scientist? Which jar of water would you like to taste? Which of your blind spots have you identified? I'm listening.